Hey everybody, Talls here once again with another Blue Lock PWC guide. Um, Today I will be going over primarily team compositions and meta changes that are currently happening within the game. There are many reasons as to why this is happening. For starters, we used to be doing these 3-1-1 compositions, but due to AI changes that I will talk about later after they introduce to the world, it's become a little bit more inconsistent. So I do advise, once the game loads up, to look at the match skill tab that I have here. I've laid out kind of these core characters here. These are the ones that are currently having like a lot of match skills that are very important towards games. And you'll kind of see that in some comps that I have noticed trend wise and trying to build myself personally that I'll bring out. Ignore all this. This is just me being lazy and not starting up the game right away. And then these other support characters. So you got your Luna, you got like all the World 5 here. You've got Kunigami, you got Isagi V2 instead of V3, Nagi V2, Shido, Baro V2, and Chigiri V2, and Zantatsu. Zantatsu's kind of a filler character, but he is like one of the characters who procs Speedster quite a bit, which can be usable, but speed is something that I still personally do not recommend for most players. We will mainly be talking about in this video a lot of the gold skills at the bottom here. So I'm going to scroll down here. And I do want to note that while like these might be some recommendations that I'm going to go over, you should still be training the characters that you can at their highest stats. Once again, I'm on my whale account because it'll be a little easier to show some things, right? But you should still be kind of training the characters who will yield you your highest results in certain positions and stats. So, like, for example, when it comes to physical, I'll reiterate this many times throughout the guide, but basically, you need to be training them at 65 no matter what. Physical is just too hard to train right now without the characters being level 65. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. So yeah, moving on to the next slide here, I do want to break down the current meta team. Now, I currently cannot make this team, so I'm going to be mainly kind of sitting on the slides and the match skills page here. But as you can see, two of these characters, the Rin here and the Chigiri here, are characters that are recommended to be trained at 100 plus only. Now, this is just due to them being the best supports in their respective stats of kick and speed, right? So this is very whale based, right? The only character here that you can argue training at level 50 for okay results is Rayo V2, and that's he himself is fine. He links together with a lot of the characters here, and that's why he is like here. So, but he's not like the priority character you want to train, right? So, like, you do need Kunigami at 65 for physical once again. Isagi V3 is trainable at 50 for intelligence, but for technical, which is what he would be in this comp, he's going to need to be 65 once again. You can play around with the team style here too, right? So I have seen in the SS leagues, I've seen people run this comp 3-1-1 with either Kunigami or Isagi as the midfielder, sometimes Chigiri as the midfielder due to his rainbow pass skill. But most of the time, Rayo's locked to defense due to how the intelligence stats works. Kunigami will be midfielder defense depending on the kickoff order. So a lot of times the midfielder, if you do not have kickoff, it's recommended to have physical as they are able to almost always push on the other balls, and they do have a decent chance at picking up a second ball if a matchup goes astray, which I'll talk a bit more about later. And then it's kind of the same goes for Isagi, right? Having that technical on defense to match up as well. This team is really flexible. So as you can see, you can play a lot of different positions here. And you can also play it on kickoff and non-kickoff because the AI still will favor sometimes passing to Rin, and Rin has mid-shot range, really great ultimate. And obviously, if you give him Fierce Demon of Shots and DOS, he'll get up there, right? So this is the team comp that's really strong, and I'll kind of break down why. So a lot of these match skills I'm going to have to go over, right? I don't know if you can read that on my screen. It might be a little blurry, so I will kind of pull up them. So first we'll kind of talk about Crossroads here. So Crossroads is a really important skill. It's been in the game for quite a bit of time now, but the main thing is that once your physical and intelligence of Ryo and Kunigami are at certain stages or at certain levels, it will decrease the shot range of the enemy team, right? So this is a really important skill that we have been using because a lot of people are abusing the Fierce Demon of Shots and Demon of Shots abilities, and this will allow it to the shot range being decreased, meaning there's more chances for an extra matchup, less chances for the ball to just be passed and shot right away, and you can't really block it or do anything about that, right? Which is kind of what made 3-1-1 really strong. Some of these other skills here that we do want to link up and talk about. Future of the battlefield. So Isagi's the one who activates this. This gives us second ball possession, and it's based on technical and intelligence, which both of them will get a lot of, right? The Tech Isagi build will need to hit a couple like intelligence tiles to kind of get there, right? But like, for example, Rin won't really have too much of a issue hitting some of these stats due to just if he's jamming that Blue Lock Man tile, you're gonna pick up those stats over and over again, right? So that's like a pretty important skill because getting that second ball a lot of times is kind of how you can swing matches in your favor, especially if you are not playing with kickoff. And then I'll get through. This is a pretty important skill too, as it boosts the cross pass rate of the player. And it also boosts the speed of Chigiri. That's not so much important. It's more so just getting that cross pass rate up. It also pairs with his Rainbow alt because that is a cross pair or a cross pass. So pretty important. And then combative spirit. This is another boosting the second ball rate, and then it boosts the kick power till the end of the match, which is pretty good, especially if you have Kunigami in that midfielder zone. It will allow him to also be able to take shots, and he does come with a mid shot range as well. So that is something to kind of keep in mind when you're building your characters. And then lastly, we're talking about Ball Hunter here. So this one, it's kind of like the skills like Mirage, Supersonic, Gallant. So I think Mirage and Gallant are the ones that will boost the matchup when they are on attack for Tech and Fizz. And then Supersonic is the one where it decreases the enemy's matchup with speed. Those are just the ones I kind of remember off the top of my head, gold skills wise. But this just does it for their whole attack, right? And it lasts until the end of the attempt. And then it'll boost physical, which that's not that important, but it basically makes it so that on top of like if you have Chigiri on defense, right, and you have them with Supersonic and you have them with this, you're debuffing their speed quite a bit to make it so that they don't break through possibly, which is like pretty strong and important, especially at the higher echelon where this team comp thrives just due to the speed creep being just unreal. So that's kind of like why this works. This comp works so well, right? You get like 6 I think that's 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's 5. Sorry. 5 gold skills that are all really strong. They debuff your opponent, they buff you, they make it everything like really flowing really well together, right? So there's a lot of strong link up here. So how can we as like free to play and low spenders combat this, right? Like this team is really hard to beat. Well, that would be the case if we were playing on the JP meta during this time. However, we have Mitoma V3, who initially was released so that intelligence was kind of trainable on our server because we don't know when we're getting those Annie units. And he serves a good piece to the metagame, right? So Japan didn't have him until like well into the season 2 characters dropping. And he's actually trainable at 50. I have, granted on this count, it's a little more whale, but on the regular Tall's account, I have been, with him being level 50, I've been able to hit 1.2 million here on this account, which has a lot higher, levels and things like that, right? But on my other account, I have him at 800k, right? So he is still trainable at level 50. He doesn't need his face tile as badly as some of these other characters. And part of that is due to Isagi having a very solid face tile, giving extra turns. Gagamaru having this at level 65 and being an intelligence trainer that also gives extra turns. And then Luna at 65 also being a strong intelligence trainer, right? And giving extra turns once again, right? So intelligence just has so many extra turns, right? Like even the ego card here has extra turns. I Can Devour him technically has extra turns, but not for Mitoma. This is more usable for if you are doing Isagi V3 intelligence training. I think I've covered that before. But yeah, like as you can see, you can get him high. You do have to high roll a bit at 50, but he opens up Crossroads and another skill I'm going to be talking about called Standout for us, right? So I do highly recommend getting one copy of this guy if you didn't pull him on the free pulls. We've gotten like a lot of free pulls on his collective banners, so that you probably should have enough to get him at level 50, if not already. So, Standout and Crossroads. We've already covered Crossroads, but the thing that you don't know is, or the thing that I didn't cover was that Pablo and Luna linked with Mitoma V3 are activators for Crossroads. Now, obviously, Crossroads is a very physical-based thing, but the good news is that tech substats into physical, right? So you don't have to worry too much about that. And I'll also I'll touch a little bit more on Pablo's role in this a bit later, but yeah, so you can easily see that that is a good setup for that, right? Now I kind of want to talk about Standout. I've shown on the slides here that you can get it from Dada and Adam linked with Mitoma. Again, I'm not going to recommend trading Adam. He is a very whale-based character, and physical already struggles as is, even when training him, because you lose his extra turns he gives. So I do recommend trading Dada for this role. But basically, Standout, it boosts second ball possession, which is something that we talked about with the 2 links on the other team, right? And you only really need a lot of physical and some kick power, which... the kick power might be a little tough to get, but honestly, yeah, it's very important to get this, right? And then, as you can see, you can also get the Speedster with this link, so if you're rounding out team comps, that works too. The other hidden gem of a character set is actually Shido and Monk, because they also get Standout, and they're 2 characters that do heavily like to go into physical and kick power, so they're pretty easy to get that boot ramped up. And then the upside is that Monk also has a actual defender gold skill. So we can decrease their range like they're doing to us. We can also have better second ball possession rate, which is important. Um, you do I do want to highlight that it is important to have some of these skills on your team if you can do it, right? If you can't train these characters, you might have a harder time. Um, but Crossroads is usable on both sides. Standout is as well, but Standout is if you have a non-kickoff team, which I keep talking about and reiterating, but in league match, you can slot in if you have kickoff, which means you get ball possession right away, and then non-kickoff where the enemy has ball possession right away and you have to try and stop their attack. So Standout's good on that regard because if you do stop that attack and it goes to a second ball free ball state, you might have a higher chance of getting that ball back, right? Some other things to note that is Pablo can also serve as a forward on teams. Even though his rainbow skill is pass-based, he has mid-shot range, so he can play as a forward, which will also kind of tie and help with Crossroads. Shido, in this, if you do choose to use Shido, he is preferable to be tech or fizz-based midfielder. It kind of depends on if you have kickoff or not. I would recommend physical if you don't have kickoff with him. Mitoma's always going to be on defense just due to how intelligence works. And I'll explain a little bit more on why he can't really play midfield because, yeah, we'll get there. Adam, Dada, Monk are always on defense. Adam and Monk have 2 defender rainbow skills. You can play Dada as a forward in some team compositions because of his rainbow skill. And then Luna pretty much always going to be midfielder or defender. So, yeah. So, here are kind of the other comps that I want to break down, right? So, this is the World 5 team comp. As you can see, I talked about how Dada could be a forward and Pablo can be a forward. So, I'll kind of break it down with kind of what I've been trying to do personally. So this is kind of one of the teams I'm working with. This is kind of like the more park the bus 2 strategy that I've got going here, right? As you can see, this Shido, since this is my non-kickoff, he's going to be very physical based. Pablo is going to have that demon of shots, fierce demon of shots, right? Has physical, kick power to kind of trigger that crossroads. Mitoma, obviously intelligence. Obviously, this isn't my best one. I can obviously upgrade and always do something else here. This should probably be Zontuts for the sake of it, but this Rhea just has so much more speed, so I've been using him. And then Monk, I'm working on improving my Monk currently, but obviously he's there as your physical defender, right? And then we're still using that shoot from aggressively, right? So this would be that park the bus 2 strategy, right? It is a less reliable, but this comp has that idea of mixing these skills together. You do also get to pick up strong-minded, which is kind of helpful for defending on Monk's part because he gets more intelligence and physical. And then if I did have Zontuts here over Rayo, that's another rainbow block shot, right? So you've got the Monk one, the Zontuts one, and then presumably a really high intelligence Mitoma V2 will allow it so that you have more chances at blocking the ball, right? That's kind of the goal here with that one. And it's kind of like the same like layout, right? Like you want to win the matchups, get into second ball possessions, and then take away, and then pass upfield to the forward and have them score. A lot of this works due to this explode skill here. So if you are tied or they are in the lead, which can happen if you're non-kickoff, right? The cross pass rate increases and Shido's kick power increases, right? So that's why he's in that midfielder there, right? So he could possibly take a shot if need be. The World 5 comp is a bit different and a bit more dicey. We're once again hitting these two skills that we want to be hitting, albeit with Dada and Mitoma, and then you'd be technically hitting it twice with Luna and Pablo, and then you're also hitting Weightless and a bunch of other skills. I believe Incentive is also on there as well. But once again, this World 5 comp here is trying to play. You can try to play 1-3-1. You can also kind of play 2-2-1, 2-1-2, things like that. I still personally recommend try to stay to 1 forward, just so for passing sake. But the downside with this specific variant is there is no rainbow defense skill, which means you might just lose out on goals, or you might just get scored on, which sucks. If you can use Adam, try to do it. It's still really hard. I personally prioritize Pablo due to that mid shot range, and you can kind of force a 3-1-1 still. And then we still kind of had that, we have that core stat spread here, right? We got that, did not mean to change that slide. We still have that tech, kick, fizz, intelligence, and speed. Always, if you're using a tech midfielder, you always pretty much need an intelligence defender nowadays. That's just kind of how it is. And then speed defender is kind of always a given. You might get out speed check early on in the game, but possibly later on in the game you can kind of win there. So Loki here would kind of go all 3 spots he can. I just have him as forward and midfielder because his rainbow skill prioritizes that. And also he could be midfielder. Like if you are whaling in a sense, he could be your midfielder if he has a high enough speed for breakthroughs. But I do recommend probably using Luna as your dedicated midfielder. So kind of broke down some of these comps, what their kind of goals are, right? Let's kind of talk about these AI changes in 3-1-1, right? So some people have noticed like 3-1-1 doesn't work as well, myself included. And a lot of this is due to the AI changes that happened to midfielders during kickoff. So midfielders will always, at the beginning of a match, I will try and show this here. Let me just go into a rank match here. Select opponent. All right, let's do this one, right? I will, for the sake of, I'll use this team for now. This isn't really updated, but I just kind of wanted to use this to show you what's going to happen, right? It'll take a little while, but while I'm doing this, what will happen is the midfielder will always match up against somebody randomly on the opponent's team now, right? And then if they win that matchup, they will have the options to either try to go for a goal or go for a pass. And a lot of this is due to, I believe, skill manipulation on like your character. So let's kind of see what happens here, right? I should have kickoff here. Just due to it being ranked match, I believe it always gives it this. Yeah, so we have kickoff, right? So Pablo goes to match up. And then I matched up with Isagi, and I lost the matchup. So now they get the ball, and now this Isagi's just breaking through, right? And that was random. It could have been the non-tech Isagi, right? And a lot of this is due to just stat check, right? So it makes things a lot harder now. Whereas before, you would just almost automatically see the ball get passed to the forward and then they go for a score. That's why, so the safest route is a fizz or tech midfielder, just due to like how things will work. I do want to keep playing this for the sake, because what ends up happening in a match is, so as you saw there, we played against Isagi again, right? And then I got cucked. That's funny. Anyway, what happened there is that Isagi matched up with my Pablo, and yeah, he just had more tech than the Pablo that I was using. So he won that matchup those 2 times, right? And then he goes on the offensive. Whereas before, that wasn't really happening. So you do kind of want to consider Tech and Fizz as your midfielders, because a lot of teams tend to have 2 speed characters, right? Or they might, like if they have a speed midfielder, they might have a speed defender, which means you have less likelihood of breaking through. And intelligence is now viable, I think. So this monk actually had a really high intelligence set. That's why he was able to block that shot, right? So like, it is important to factor in that intelligence may randomly block shots, but sometimes it's just good enough. It gets you there. So we're no longer 100% winning these kickoff games against higher level people. A lot of it's due to the stat inflation, and it is making it harder for people. So yeah, it's hard to like guarantee these wins now, right? We can't just park the bus and get that aggressive jump on them. But with the other skills, it can make things helpful, right? That's kind of like the goal with this video, is to show you that these other skills can possibly net us more wins, and give you other ideas on maybe where to start trying elsewhere, right? Next part here, though, is some couple additional team comps. These are some theories I kind of came up with. These aren't foolproof, right? But these are often based on that kind of first slide of characters who have core links. So Isagi V3 links with Baro and with Nagi. These 2 give Crossroads still. Nagi and Reo link. And then, yeah, that's like a lot of kick. This would be a more probably pass, like dribble or not dribble, close and pass, but it could be shoot from any range as well. You would probably have to play around with the strat on that one. I might personally give this one a go on my other account, as I have most of these characters at like 65 on that account, so might make a video on that later. Rin's debut, this one's kind of similar idea to the first kind of composition, right? You have a little less match skills, but Luna links with Rin for... So Luna and Adam link, and they get incentive, which boosts shot success, which is good. Luna would be the midfielder in this case. I didn't really give the roles for there, because you can kind of do... So Luna would be the dedicated midfielder here. Blake and Mitoma would be the dedicated defenders. And then you could do a mix of defender Shido, 2 forwards, or midfielder Shido along with Luna. And then you also get this skill, Next Level, which is pretty strong. So when activated, it decreases the opponent's shot block success rate and briefly boosts the stats of this player during this shot made by the player, right? So it'll, lower their chances of actually blocking the shot, which is always really important. And then we also see, I believe, yeah, so we get that Crossroads still, right? Very important. We're getting that Crossroads. And then we also get Standout here, right? So we get those 2 key skills, a lot more shot boost and things like that. Also, I do know that I keep listing Isagi as technical instead of intelligence. A lot of that's based to multiple intelligence will make it so you're kind of playing a gamble the whole time. So for more consistency on pushes, I've labeled Isagi as the technical because a lot of his link skills, I think I showed earlier, right? But like the main ones, like Future of the Battlefield, is based on his technical as well. I'll grab the victory, by the way. That's another boost ball claiming rate, right? And it boosts technical as well. And you get that from the Sundare's comp here. This one doesn't have a speed check. But, yeah, Usagi's technical is kind of a little bit more important to do these days over the intelligence, just due to you'll always have a dedicated intelligence player, and Crossroads needs to have that intelligence threshold in order to debuff them, right? So that's why Reo has been the intelligence and Isagi has been the technical for these comps. I do hope I gave you guys a better understanding of how to do. As always, I do want to reiterate, make sure you're basing these off of the characters in your box, right? If you can't make some of these team comps and stuff, that's fine. Your goal should be looking at the match skills, seeing which ones are good, right? I've laid out a lot of really strong ones here. If you can utilize them, that's great. If you can't utilize them, still be sure to be using the characters that have those highest growths in those specific stats so that you have an easier time of actually getting through. 311 isn't as reliable now, so you can experiment with certain things. My basis for experimenting with characters in terms of different roles is always going to be based off of that rainbow skill, right? So for example, before I end off this video, right, X-Rayo here, he gets sniper pass, right? So really good for defending and sometimes can activate on a defense pushback. You obviously have Borrow's skill is obviously it boosts the shot success rate, obviously meant for a forward, right? And those types of things. So make sure you be looking at those rainbow skills, see what they're doing. Let me also end off by checking another defender one, right? So you've got Zontet's, right? He gets my defense, right? So he gets shot deflection, right? And then he gets more speed. So those are how I would start maybe slotting your characters. As always, rewatch your league matches to see where your composition maybe faltered. And yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it at. Please leave in the comments any additional video ideas. I might try to do some training videos if that's something people really want, but I think they're kind of boring personally. I like these kind of breakdown style videos for you guys. But yeah, as always, comment, like, I guess subscribe. I'm on that chill stuff now. So yeah, see you guys.